The famous Yiddish writer, Isaac Bashevis Singer, must have read my mind when he said, every writer needs an address. And he was right. And for as long as I can remember, Michigan has been mine. But not only just my home and my address, and I can't explain this, Michigan has also in its own way been my muse. What brings me to the table as a filmmaker and a Michigan storyteller, and what I also want to talk about today, in addition to the whole issue of Michigan incentives, is the other kind of incentive, the one which we don't hear too much about in the conversations we are having about the Michigan film incentives. And I call it the 60% incentive. The 60% incentive for native sons and daughters who are Michigan filmmakers like me and yourselves. The real true incentive, the inducement, the motivation to make movies in our state is not only to shoot films in Michigan, that's important, shoot the films in Michigan, but also and mainly to show and tell our stories in Michigan. And there is a difference. Tell our stories, not theirs. I'm not in any way diminishing or devaluing the value and benefits to the state of the film-making community from out of town to come here and support our filmmaking. I think that synergy, that collaboration, that cooperation is critical. It's key. And I think that big production studios with big production budgets should come here and make their films and tell their stories. I have no complaint. I think the Drew Barrymores and the Clint Eastwoods and the Rob Reiners are absolutely essential to the success of our filmmaking efforts, and I want them to make more of their movies here, not less. I don't want you to misunderstand my position. My point is, I think it's also important that while we support the out-of-town filmmakers who come here for the incentives, and that's why they are here, we also find new and creative ways to support the 60% incentive that drives those of us who are writers and directors and producers and composers and editors and directors of photography who are committed to telling our own stories as well as theirs, but who also want to shoot their stories not only in Michigan locations, but also and especially about Michigan communities. Not just locations, but the state as a community and a source of incredible wealth of storytelling. As an educator and a teacher, as well as a producer, I'm a firm believer in the role and value of intrinsic motivation in the learning and the development process. Some incentives are external. Some come from the outside. Others are intrinsic because they originate from inside, from here, from where we come from and what's important and what we value. I'll give you an example. Johnny, I'll give you $1 for every A you get on your report card. Sarah, I'll give you $5 for every time you hit the ball. Clint, I'll give you 40% if you shoot Gran Torino in Michigan and not in Minnesota. External motivation. It's not evil. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't think that that's where growth and learning and development and ultimately an industry comes from in the long run. Incentives and rewards that are external, that come from the outside, instead of the heart, the spirit, what's inside here, from the deeply felt and personal experiences that we have, the wishes and memories and desires and dreams of the Michigan storyteller as an artist. That's the intrinsic need to tell the stories. And I think you can't have the conversation about the 40% incentives without, from my perspective, discussing the other 60%.